On Truth Social, quote, "I am directing every federal agency in the United States government to immediately cease all use of Anthropic's technology. We don't need it, we don't want it, and..."
The President of the United States banned an AI company from the entire federal government. The Pentagon went further. It declared the company a national security risk. That label had never been used on an American company before. The fight started with a $200 million contract and one word the company refused: unrestricted. Then the CEO's internal memo leaked, and it used the phrase dictator-style praise. He apologized the next night. And underneath all of it is a raid in Venezuela nobody has fully explained. Start with the money, because the money is the least complicated part.
Anthropic was awarded a $200 million contract last year to let the military use its Claude AI model. But the company wanted the Pentagon to implement certain...
Those safeguards were specific, and they were short. No mass surveillance of American citizens, no lethal autonomous weapons.
Safeguards. The military instead demanded unrestricted access to Claude.
That is the whole disagreement. One side wanted limits written down. The other side wanted no limits at all. But this did not begin at a negotiating table. It began in January, in the air over Venezuela.
A January raid by the U.S. military to capture former Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. During that raid, Anthropic's AI model Claude was actually used by the U.S. military.
Read the next sentence slowly, because it is the reason this became a war. Nobody is exactly sure why or how Claude was used in that raid. Not the public, not the reporters, and according to Politico, not the company that made it. That is what got back to Anthropic. Its model had been used in a real military operation against the head of state, and it could not establish the details. So when the next contract came up for negotiation, the company asked for the limits in writing. That request is what broke everything. It is worth pausing on how unusual that raid was. American forces captured a former head of state of another country, and an American AI model was somewhere in the operation. Anthropic had already signed a narrower agreement covering a shorter list of uses, and by its own account, that arrangement had caused nobody any problems on the ground. So none of this started with the company objecting to something the military was already doing. It started with the company asking what the next contract would allow. The response did not come as a counteroffer, it came as an order. The president posted it on Truth Social. Every federal agency, immediately cease all use.
Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth also says he will designate Anthropic a supply chain risk to national security.
Supply chain risk is not a fine, and it is not a suspension. It is a quarantine.
Risk here, and what does that mean? No contractor, supplier, or partner that does business with the U.S. military may conduct any commercial activity with...
Think about how wide that is. It does not only cut the company off from the government, it puts a choice in front of every defense contractor in the country.
For Pete Hegseth. Now, this designation, guys, has never been given to a U.S. company. Amade told us that...
Never. Not to a defense firm caught overbilling, not to a manufacturer with a security breach. The first American company to receive it makes chatbots. And then, in the middle of all of that, someone inside Anthropic forwarded a message their chief executive had written to the whole company.
The Pentagon and the company. The CEO of Anthropic, Dario Amodei, now apologizing for a leaked internal memo. That memo, first obtained by the information, said the real reasons the Department of War and the administration do not like us as an Anthropic is that we haven't given dictator-style praise to...
That is a chief executive telling his own staff in writing that his company is being punished for insufficient flattery of the president. The same memo went after a competitor as well. Amodei called OpenAI's public messaging mendacious, described it as safety theater, and said parts of it were straight up lies. Internal memos are written to be read by people who already agree with you. This one went to everybody.
So now, in a blog post last night, Amodei is now apologizing for the tone of what he said, adding it does not reflect my careful...
Note what he apologized for, the tone, not the claim. And to understand why he was writing about OpenAI at all in a memo about the Pentagon, you need the other feud running underneath this one. Amodei and 6 colleagues left OpenAI to start Anthropic. Every argument between these two companies is underneath an argument between people who used to share an office. When OpenAI began putting advertisements inside ChatGPT, Anthropic bought a 4-advert Super Bowl campaign, quietly making fun of it. Altman answered publicly, arguing that adverts are how you make the technology affordable for billions of people rather than a premium tier. Earlier this year, the two of them stood beside India's Prime Minister for a group photograph. Everyone in the line joined hands. The two of them clenched separate fists. The clip went round the world. Asked about it afterwards, Altman said he just was not sure. So when a leaked memo about a Pentagon dispute takes a detour to call a competitor mendacious, it is not a detour. It is the same fight in a document that was never meant to leave the building. So how does he explain refusing a customer that happens to be the United States military? On camera, he reaches for aircraft.
You can think of this as like a supplier of aircraft who says this aircraft is not safe to fly above a certain altitude or to turn at a certain speed. We didn't make these systems to be safe if you use them in that particular way, right? They're not suitable for this use case.
It is a careful argument. He is not claiming the moral high ground over the military. He is claiming a manufacturer's right to state what its product is rated for. Whether you find that convincing probably depends on whether you think a company should get to write the terms on which a government fights. Anthropic did not fold. It sued the administration. And at first it worked. A federal judge, Rita Lynn, temporarily blocked both the designation and the order, telling agencies to cut ties. She found the company was likely to win on its argument that its constitutional due process rights had been violated, and that the defense secretary had not followed proper procedure. Then, on the 8th of April, the appeals court in Washington took it back. The appeals judges accepted that the company would likely suffer irreparable harm. They then wrote that its interests seemed primarily financial in nature. Primarily financial. For a company whose entire public argument is that it refused the money on principle, that sentence stings more than the ban. Asked directly whether this was an abuse of power, Amodei did not use that phrase. He used two others.
Company. And I think it was made very clear in some of their statements, in some of their language, that this was retaliatory and punitive. I don't know what else.
Strip out the personalities, and one question is left. Can a company that sells a general purpose tool decide what that tool may not be used for when the customer is a government at war? Anthropic's answer was yes, and it cost them a $200 million contract, access to every federal agency, and a designation no American company had carried before. The administration's answer was that a supplier does not get to set the terms of national defense, and it had the tools to make that point without a courtroom. Both of those positions are defensible. That is exactly why this will not stay a story about one company. Every other lab watched this happen. They now know the price of writing limits into a defense contract, and they know it is not theoretical. A memo leaked, and a CEO apologized for its tone. The sentence he never took back is still the most interesting thing anyone has said about this. He said his company was being punished for what it would not say. The government said it was being punished for what it would not sell. Only one of them needed a court to make it stick.